outreach going on here from the cosmos to this
Yes.
species that seems to have no concern for the web of life and is only concerned with its own consumption. And so it's trying to reach us, to awaken us to the catastrophic nature of the threat to the environment that this one species, namely us, is creating. So that seems to be a big part of it. Another part of it seems to have something to do with some sort of exchange program. I don't know what to call it, but this what Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs have pioneered and discovered about this hybrid program where some sort of, at least one of these species, and maybe more, in some way are connecting with us to create a whole nother set of beings, hybrids or whatever you want to call them. Now, whether this is happening in our literal three-dimensional reality or in another dimension of reality, that's one of the most controversial subjects around this, how to think about it. But that it's true and real is I think, undeniable. So there is some kind of mutual exchange program. Perhaps what we're getting is out of this is some change and awakening and opening of ourselves, expansion of who we are, and what the beings may be getting is some sort of, this is from the cases, actual experience of another kind of embodiment of earthly, our type of love and affection and sensuality, which they seem to lack. So there's some kind of interspecies connecting, but that would, to really discuss that, you'd have to get into the various different sorts of species that seem to be reaching us. Now, and the third area has to do with simply the matter of truth. I mean, it seems to be a principle of nature that if you suppress, Freud demonstrated this in his work, that if you suppress something, repress something of great importance psychologically or deny reality, it comes back. It comes back to appear. It shows up. So our suppression of all life, all intelligence, everything that people call spirit, all beings, all entities, the denial of this has reached such an extent that in a sense, it sort of it's like a return of the repressed of the existence of other intelligence in the cosmos, what other peoples have known, and what this culture really knew until the last 300 years or so.
We appear to be in complete denial with regard to the state of the environment. I note this administration has cut in half the amount of money that it wishes to devote to the study of alternative fuels, while pursuing coal and oil avidly. And
this is a catastrophe, and I'm surprised, because you speak about west of the Rockies, and the Rockies and the mountain states, which are so conservative. You would think that those people in those states would be particularly sensitive to the environment and to the life of the forests and the rivers and the fishing and the livestock. I mean, you would think that they would be particularly alerted to the danger to the environment, although that seems to be a source of support for this kind of deregulation. It's quite puzzling to me.
It's very puzzling and scary to me, because you said the Earth is in trouble, and I guess the progression toward possible ecological disaster is pretty fast right now. At least that's the way I read it. Unchecked, I wonder how long you think we have to go until we get a serious wake-up.
Well, the late Donella Meadows, who was a great pioneer in awakening us to wrote The Limits of Growth and Beyond the Limits, bestsellers that kind of like Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, and those sort of pioneering books about the state of the ecology, and she estimated about, based on projected statistics that she had worked out in terms of the sustainability of our lifestyle as we now are pursuing it, that we might have another 10 or 15 years to, but it may not be all one moment that it collapses. It may collapse gradually. I mean, for example, the price of fish has gone up like fourfold in the last couple of decades. Well, that's because the supply of fish, healthy fish in the ocean is rapidly dwindling. I mean,
so then we're the lobsters and we're just feeling warmer, but that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at what point is there any space in there between awakening and death? You know, I mean, in terms of the heating up of the pot, do we wake up so we can get out of it, or do we just croak before we realize what we're doing to the earth?
Well, maybe that's what these other entities are, and that's why they're making more frequent appearances. Maybe they're standing at the top of the pot saying, "Hey, stupid, it's about to boil in there."
Well, I mean, the people that we work with, Bud Hopkins sometimes says, well, if they're all that concerned about the environment, why don't they do something about it? Well, the only thing they can do about it is change consciousness to show us images, which they do regularly with people who have the encounters, show them images of what we're doing to the earth, awaken the people's visceral, gut feeling about what's happening. And a lot of the people that we work with at our program do become quite active on behalf of the earth, very concerned about what we're doing. So it's they do something about it. They do what you do, Art, which is to wake people up, even at 2 and 3 in the morning.
Yeah, even at 2 and 3 in the morning. Doctor, since abduction, do you have any doubt now about the reality of what occurred to those people that you chronicled?
None whatsoever. However, having said that, I do not necessarily believe that each person that's having an encounter or experiences being taken into a spaceship or whatever, or having poked, probed, or also having a powerful spiritual experiences with or connection with the beings. All of this, I don't necessarily believe this is all happening in our three-dimensional physical reality. I can't. I don't know. The fact that it is not provable to be all three-dimensional, or I'm not sure if we went up, for example, into the heavens and started to looking for spaceships, we'd find little aliens in there in our airspace or something. I think we have to expand our whole. The physicists have become quite interested recently in this whole notion of a multidimensional universe.
Oh, very interested.
And I think that's helpful in terms of our efforts to understand that is, in what dimension all of this is happening. But the fact that we're having some kind of interdimensional connecting doesn't make it any less real. In fact, it makes it more real in some ways because it's part of a larger reality.
What do you suppose would happen, Professor, if the metaphysical world and the scientific world all of a sudden got on the same page? What kind of consequences would there be for society?
Well, that's exactly what's happening now. I mean, in our neck of the woods, this multidimensional conference I was telling you about, we had philosophers and scientists getting together, and some of the people that I work with personally are in those fields, and they are very much feeding each other intellectually. They are, I think, the metaphysical dimension of this is being increasingly recognized. In other words, that how do we think about reality? How do we know what we know? What is the right way to decide whether somebody's telling the truth or not? Because you can't set up an experiment, controlled experiment to see whether aliens are here or not. You have to work with the people's experiences, and so how do you decide who's an authentic truth teller here and witness? So this is those are clinical and philosophical questions. So we are collaborating very much with not only with physicists and psychologists, but with philosophers around just those questions.
But if the scientists verify the additional dimensions, and then metaphysically we begin to get in a good solid communication with beings from perhaps other dimensions, the social consequences, the religious consequences would be, you couldn't calculate them.
Well, it's very interesting. You mentioned the religious consequences. Have you ever had Father Corrado